For more than 100 years, the world revolved around a single center of gravity, not because it was perfect, not because it was peaceful, but because it was powerful. Global trade moved through one currency. Global security depended on one military. Global decisions waited for one response. This era was called the American century, but history has never allowed power to remain concentrated forever. Empires do not collapse when they are weak. They begin to fade when they are strongest, and when the world quietly stops waiting. This is not the story of America's fall. This is the story of what comes after dominance. Throughout history, power has always followed a predictable cycle. It rises, concentrates, overextends, and then disperses. This cycle is not driven by morality or ideology. It is driven by mathematics, resources, and human limits. When power becomes too concentrated, it creates resistance. When resistance grows, alternatives emerge. When alternatives multiply, dominance weakens. Rome controlled the Mediterranean world for centuries, but even Rome could not govern infinite borders indefinitely. Britain dominated global trade routes, but maintaining a worldwide empire eventually cost more than it produced. The Soviet Union controlled half of Europe militarily, but its economy could not support permanent competition. The United States is not exempt from this pattern. What made America unique was not that it escaped history, but that it delayed history longer than any empire before it. And that delay created the illusion of permanence. How did America become the world's superpower without conquering a single nation? It's a story not of armies, but of systems. After World War II, the world was shattered. Old empires were dust. Into this chaos, the United States didn't march with soldiers to claim territory. It stepped in with a blueprint for a new world order. First, the dollar became the global currency, the bedrock of international trade. Then came institutions like the World Bank and IMF, all built on American economic ideals. Military alliances like NATO offered a security blanket, weaving nations into a web of mutual defense led by the US. And finally, American culture, movies, music, and technology spread across the globe, a soft power more persuasive than any army. This system brought stability and prosperity, but it came at a cost: dependency. The world became reliant on America's economy, its military, and its culture. And what starts as a helping hand can sometimes begin to feel like a chain. Thanks for watching. The greatest danger to any empire is not failure, but success. Success creates habits. Habits create rigidity. Rigidity prevents adaptation. America's system became so successful that it assumed the world would always function the same way. As other nations recovered and grew, they wanted influence proportional to their strength. When influence lagged behind power, frustration grew. History shows that rising powers do not attack systems immediately. They first attempt reform. When reform fails, they build alternatives. This is the moment the American-led system entered quietly, without announcement. America remains one of the largest economies on Earth, but economic size is no longer equivalent to economic control. Global production is fragmented across continents. Supply chains bypass traditional centers. Financial flows are diversified. This does not weaken America overnight. It weakens enforcement. And when enforcement weakens, influence becomes conditional rather than automatic. History shows that this stage lasts longer than collapse, but it is far more decisive. Empires lose authority before they lose wealth. Have you ever wondered if the US dollar will be the world's top currency forever? History gives us a fascinating clue. Let's look at the British pound. For over a century, it was the king of currencies, much like the dollar is today. But its reign didn't end with a big crash. It faded away, slowly and quietly. Here's how it happens. Countries don't suddenly attack the dominant currency. They just start avoiding it. Little by little, they begin trading with other currencies, even for small things. These small shifts add up over time. Confidence doesn't shatter. It just becomes more selective. This is the exact pattern we're seeing with the dollar now. The change is so gradual it can be mistaken for stability. This quiet decline can last for decades, but history shows that no currency's dominance is permanent. What do you think the future holds for the dollar? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. America's military superiority is undeniable, but military power today does not produce the outcomes it once did. Wars no longer end with surrender. Conflicts drag on. Victory becomes ambiguous. Legitimacy erodes. Empires historically reach a point where military presence generates resistance faster than control. Rome experienced this. Britain experienced this. America is now experiencing it. When force stops delivering clarity, empires begin conserving power rather than projecting it. Empires do not decline only from outside pressure. They decline when internal cohesion weakens. Polarization, institutional distrust, and identity conflict reduce the ability to act decisively. History shows that internal strain amplifies every external challenge. Rome fractured politically. Britain struggled with imperial fatigue. The Soviet Union lost ideological unity. America faces a similar test. An empire divided at home cannot lead confidently abroad. The most important change of our time is not the rise of a single rival, but the emergence of multiple centers of power. Economic influence, military capability, technology, and diplomacy are no longer concentrated in one place. This multipolar reality is not coming, it is already here. The world no longer waits for a single decision maker. It negotiates, hedges, and balances. This marks the true end of unipolar dominance. The American century did not end in defeat. It began to end when the world stopped organizing itself around one center. Ever wonder why even the mightiest empires eventually crumble? From the Romans to the British, history is a graveyard of great powers. It's a fascinating pattern, isn't it? Many think it's all about epic battles and invading armies, but the real reasons are often much quieter and more complex. Think about it. Overextension is a big one. An empire gets too big to manage. Its borders become impossible to defend, and communication breaks down. Then there's economic trouble. Heavy taxes, inflation, and trade disruptions can cripple an empire from the inside. And let's not forget social decay when the gap between the rich and poor grows too wide, and people lose faith in their leaders. The very fabric of society starts to tear apart. It's a cycle that has repeated itself throughout history. So, what lessons can we learn from them today? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more. China is often described as the next global ruler, but history demands a more careful analysis. Economic size alone has never been enough to create a global empire. Empires require more than production capacity. They require trust, alliances, and the willingness of others to follow their leadership voluntarily. China's economic growth has been extraordinary, but it faces structural limits that America never faced at its peak. Demographic decline threatens long-term growth. Regional neighbors remain cautious rather than loyal. Trade dependence ties China to a global system it did not design and does not fully control. These factors do not weaken China, they constrain its ability to dominate. History shows that rising powers often appear unstoppable until their limits become visible. China will be one of the most influential powers of the coming era, but influence does not equal empire. Power in the post-American world will be shared, not inherited. Ever wondered what Russia's real role in the world is? It's not about building new systems, but about challenging the existing ones. Think of it this way. Russia is a disruptor. It's militarily assertive and strategically focused on preventing any single power from dominating the global stage. A lesson learned from its own deep history of vulnerability. But history also shows us that military might alone isn't enough to lead the world. Ancient Rome's armies outran its economy, and the Soviet Union's military couldn't save it from economic collapse. Russia's place in the future will be significant, but it has its limits. It can shake up the balance of power, but it can't create a new world order on its own. This is crucial because the future isn't about conquest. It's a massive competition across all fields: economic, tech, information, and politics. The game has changed. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more insights. One of the clearest signs of imperial transition is the return of regional autonomy. When a global power retreats from universal enforcement, regions begin managing their own affairs. This is not chaos, it is decentralization. In the post-American world, regional powers will matter more than distant superpowers. Middle powers will negotiate alliances issue by issue. Influence will be local before it becomes global. History shows this pattern repeatedly. After Rome, regional rulers dominated. After Britain, newly independent states reshaped their regions. This shift reduces global uniformity but increases local relevance. The world becomes harder to control, but more reflective of reality. People living through the decline of an empire rarely recognize it as transition. Instead, they experience it as endless crisis. Markets fluctuate, conflicts linger, political systems polarize. Every event feels urgent and unresolved. History shows that this sensation is normal. When old rules fade faster than new ones form, uncertainty dominates. The world feels unstable not because it is collapsing, but because it is reorganizing. This phase can last decades, even generations. The danger lies not in crisis itself, but in misinterpreting crisis as collapse. Empires that panic accelerate their decline. Empires that adapt manage transition. Have you ever wondered what happens when a great empire starts to fade? It's not just about losing land or money. There's a huge psychological battle going on. Imagine being told your whole life that you're part of the greatest nation on earth, and then suddenly, that's not true anymore. This is what historians call the psychology of imperial decline. We saw it with the British Empire after World War II, grappling with its new place in the world. We saw it with Spain centuries ago. It's a tough pill to swallow, often leading to nostalgia for a golden age that might not have been so golden for everyone. But the real key to navigating this change isn't about clinging to the past. It's about adaptation. The nations that successfully manage this transition are the ones that find a new identity and a new purpose. It's a fascinating and often painful part of history. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more. Ever wondered why the world feels so on edge right now? Let's talk about power. In a unipolar world, one country acts like a global referee, enforcing the rules. This can bring a certain kind of stability, even if it's not always fair. But what happens when that power spreads out? We enter a multipolar world. Here, there's no single referee. Power is scattered among several major players, and it's not an even split. Instead of rules being enforced, they're constantly negotiated. This creates friction. Alliances shift like sand, and those firm red lines start to blur. The risk of one country miscalculating another's intentions skyrockets. Think of it like this: unipolar stability is forced, but multipolar stability has to be balanced, and that balance is incredibly fragile. History teaches us a sobering lesson. The most devastating wars often erupt, not during the peak of an empire, but in the chaotic transitions between them. This doesn't mean catastrophe is inevitable, but it absolutely guarantees a more complex and unpredictable future for all of us. Thanks for watching. Power after empire does not move in straight lines. It flows through trade, technology, demographics, and culture. Influence shifts issue by issue, rather than ideology by ideology. One country may lead in technology, another in finance, another in security. This fragmentation makes the world slower and messier, but also more resilient. No single failure collapses the system. No single victory defines it. This is the structure of the post-American world. The world after America will not celebrate, and it will not mourn. It will adapt. Institutions will weaken before they reform. Alliances will become conditional. Cooperation will be transactional rather than ideological. This world will be less predictable, but more representative of global diversity. No single nation will carry the burden of order alone. Responsibility will be shared unevenly and imperfectly. History shows this is not regression, it is evolution. Every empire believes it is different. Every empire is eventually proven wrong. The American century reshaped the world, but it did not escape time. Its end does not mean failure. It means transition. The world after America is not waiting to be ruled. It is learning to manage itself imperfectly, slowly, and through constant negotiation. That is not collapse. That is history continuing.